Well, a controversial case before the US Supreme Court is raising difficult questions for Americans about their right to free speech. In a story Lateline first brought to you in July, the case focuses on the father of a dead Marine whose funeral was picketed by a fundamentalist church. The church targets military funerals because it says soldiers are defending a country that tolerates homosexuality. But how far is too far when their protests cause even further grief? North America correspondent Lisa Miller reports.
This case was always going to attract a crowd.
It's too late to ask for God to bless the United States Marines.
There were observers wanting one of the scarce seats inside America's highest court, the believers wanting to spread the word outside.
Because of Adam's transgression, all men are now in sin.
And then there were the veterans offering their support to the man who brought this case, Al Snyder, whose son died in Iraq and then became the target of a fundamentalist church.
Our son, a hero, dead, only to be compounded by the family being targeted and subject to personal attacks, venomous hate, and injustice at Matt's funeral. It is something no family should have to live through.
Lateline first spoke to Al Snyder as he was meeting with his lawyer, preparing this case in July, 4 years after the death of his son, a Marine in Iraq. The Kansas-based, family-run Westboro Baptist Church protested outside his son's funeral, believing soldiers who died were being punished for defending a country that tolerated gays and abortion.
Thank God for dead soldiers.
I'm sorry that they raised their son for the devil in hell. I'm sorry that they let him have anything to do with the army.
It was almost like kicking you in the face when you're laying on the ground.
The build-up to this appearance in the Supreme Court had clearly been a strain.
Boy, I'm glad this is over.
In court, his team argued the First Amendment did not give the church the right to protest at a private and solemn event, and they want the court to reinstate the $5 million civil verdict awarded and then overturned by lower courts.
Because let's face it, there are no do-overs. There was only one and only opportunity to bury Matt Snyder. In a civilized society, the only thing left to do is proceed with some type of civil remedy.
The church members say it wasn't a private event and they were entitled to get their point of view across.
You all know that people put obituaries in the newspaper with the date, time and location of funerals because they want the public to come and bow down to that dead body. Now, you don't get to do that, as they say, have your cake and eat it too, without people answering when you go into the public airwaves.
The family used its moment in the glare of international media coverage to condemn those who support same-sex marriage.
I'd like them to obey the commandment of God and recognize what Romans 1:32 says, they who do such things are worthy of death. They're not going to do it, but that's what I'd like them to do.
But don't institutionalize proud sin
and
from top to bottom and then put same-sex marriage in and pretend you haven't turned this country over to the fags. That's what you did. Right. And that's why your soldiers are coming home in body bags.
The protests have been described as abhorrent and despicable, and most Americans have sympathised with Al Snyder. But constitutional experts are predicting that the church will win its right to free speech, no matter how unpopular a decision that might be.
My real concern is, the First Amendment is such an important and such a broad freedom. Any erosion that's not very carefully construed, it is a very slippery slope.
I guess the bottom line is I believe that there's a bound of propriety in speech or privacy or anything else. And I think that Mr. Snyder's bounds of propriety were interfered with.
The court's decision is expected by the middle of next year. Lisa Miller, Lateline.